Hey friend, I'm so glad that you are here. We're in the middle of a true crime Bible case series, and we're going to be focusing in on a true crime Bible case in the New Testament. We're going to be looking today at a man, and I'm going to call his name John, and he was supposed to be arriving in Jericho that evening. Some people were expecting him to arrive. And he never does show. He never does show up. And the people are wondering, where's John? I mean, he told us he was leaving from Jerusalem this morning, to get here, and he should be here by now. And he hasn't gotten there. And they're wondering, where is John? It would be days later, and John would be able to tell them this awful situation, true crime that happened in his life. He would tell them that he had an almost death experience. He would tell them about his miraculous story of a survivor. When you look at the travel that John was taking from Jerusalem to Jericho, this travel was 17 miles. It was a road known as the Jericho Road, and it was a 17-mile long road. And this road would take about 8 hours if you were walking. And this road was not a big road, like a really wide road that you would think of, how we travel with cars and very wide roads. This road was like a walking trail and very, very narrow. This road was, parts of it were on the sides of a cliff. In fact, when you're traveling back in the Bible times from Jerusalem to Jericho, it was descending. It dropped about 3,600 feet. And so you have a lot of winds around this road. There's a lot of descending. And this is a busy road. This was a road that was traveled by with lots of people. Some people, poorer people traveled by foot. They couldn't afford a donkey. And then wealthier people would have animals that they would travel on. And so John was doing this travel. He started that morning in Jerusalem, but he didn't make it to Jericho that night. And then days later, he would be able to tell his friends, his family, about what had happened on that fateful day. Well, when he's traveling, there was this unexpected event that he never would have thought would have entered his life. He's just an innocent bystander. He's just a normal person just going throughout their day. He's got a list of things he's got to do that day, and he's going to get that done. And and on that day, the list consisted of getting from Jerusalem to Jericho. And during this travel, there were men, more than one man, who beat him up, robbed him, stripped him, and he was left on the road. Luckily, he was still breathing. His heart was still beating. But he was really close to death. He is needing help. He is needing CPR. He is needing the best medical care that one could possibly have, because he is on the verge of death. The Lord sends a wealthy man. This wealthy man would happen to be going down the same road that John's true crime incident just happened. The reason I know this man was wealthy was because he was not traveling by foot. He had a donkey or animal of some sort that he was traveling on to make that travel easier. And when you look at this road, this Jericho road, you look at it on videos of YouTube, and we have all of these wonderful resources at the tips of our fingers. And when you look at different parts of that road, it is narrow road. It is a very narrow road. It is wide enough for one pedestrian to walk. And when he comes, you can't help but see John lying there because the road is so narrow. And so this wealthy man, he gets off of the animal that he's traveling on, and he helps this man. He does all that he needs to do to try to bring this man into a healing state. He puts this man on his donkey and travels to the nearest city and stays with him that whole night. He makes sure that he has got everything that he needs to get back into life, to help him with his trauma experience, the loss that he has experienced. The next day, this man leaves, and he doesn't leave John just by himself. He leaves him in the hands of another trusted individual who can pick up from where he left off to get John back on his feet again. Well, you have probably discovered by now about the story that I'm talking about. One of the most famous Bible stories of all time. This true crime Bible case is found in Luke chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. And this, my friend, is the story of the Good Samaritan. When you look at this road, this Jericho road on YouTube videos where people have traveled there, you see just how narrow the road is, and it really gives you more of meaning to the other two that just simply passed by John and did not help him, the priest and the Levite. And when they had to pass by John, they literally had to step over his body. That shows you that what lack of empathy they had for a man who is at death's doorstep. This was a victim of true crime. This is a picture that, we don't want to see in our lives, right? But this happened at a time in which these men were traveling down this same road. And the Good Samaritan that stops and helps him, this help, he is not frightened by this, scared by this man, right? This is not something that is just so out there in his life. He has probably identified with this somewhere in his life. You know, the Samaritan people were a very shunned people during this time of this period of time. And, you know, he could have very easily have thought, well, I'm not going to help him. There have been so many times in my life that I needed help and nobody helped me. He could have said that. But he didn't. He had this amazing heart of empathy. And this help was not muddled communication. This help was not the least amount of help he could get by with just to get credit that he helped this man. This help was, he did this help to the max. He couldn't have helped this person any more than what he did. He did it to the max. And the ramifications of this help was not only experienced by John, who was almost a John Doe, but this was experienced by John's family, friends. This was experienced by the innkeeper who witnessed this event, and his family and friends. And this was experienced by the Good Samaritan and his family and friends. You know, with each one of these true crime Bible cases, our Heavenly Father gives us hope. In this story of the Good Samaritan, it's hope that God will send people in our lives that will bring us healing, that will help us in that healing process. In the last week's devotional of a John Doe case, the hope presented there was that God provided an Ada or Zillah, a witness to a wrongdoing. That is my spiritual food for you to munch on the rest of the week. I can't wait to see you the next time.